On this episode of Insight, the new year brings new measures to a district searching for the best way to keep students and staff safe on campus. Find out what's on tap when it comes to testing drinking water in CMS facilities. Career and technical education provides an exciting pathway to the workforce. Is this the right option for your child? These topics and more. Let's ask the superintendent for insight. Hello everyone, I'm Coretta Wilson and welcome to Insight with Superintendent Clayton Wilcox, the show that keeps you up to date on the issues and initiatives in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. 2019 is officially here and it's our resolution to get you answers to all of the questions you have directly from the Superintendent of CMS, Dr. Clayton Wilcox. Happy New Year to you, Dr. Wilcox.
Happy New Year.
It's great to be here again.
It's good to be here.
Well, coming soon to a school near you, additional security measures. This is something that you said you would do, and now it is happening. What does it look like at the different schools?
So at a number of new schools, we have enhanced security procedures. We're very much more careful about who gets into the school and how they get in. We've changed locking mechanisms on many of our schools to give our first responders easier access to schools. We've improved perimeter fencing, we have improved camera systems across the system, and perhaps most difficult, we're initiating a plan in the next few days where we're going to be wanding young people as they come into our high schools. This is going to be a challenge for all of us, but we think we can get it done.
Why do you think that's going to be a pretty big challenge? It's something that will be definitely different for students and parents to see as they come to school.
Well, I think it's going to be challenging for a number of reasons. One, just the sheer number of kids in our high schools. We have large high schools. But secondly, there are a lot of folks who are worried that we're going to kind of target individual kids. We're not.
Right. We're
going to an entire school, looking at every student who steps onto that campus during a prescribed period of time. They're going to either be wanded, and we're going to be very sensitive to how we do that, or they're going to walk through an airport-style metal detector. And again, we'll be thoughtful about how we do that. We're going to be responsive to those kids who are sensitive and need a privacy screening. But we're also going to look at book bags. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for us, but we're going to try it. We're going to debrief. If it doesn't work, we've got a couple other backup plans.
Definitely something new. Also, I know you mentioned that you wanted to see some changes and improvements to crisis response and also social media, because nowadays everyone has a phone, everyone has technology. So when something happens, big or small on a campus, it seems as if social media can get it out before CMS. What are we doing to address that?
Well, we've installed a new system that we're piloting at one of our schools, and we're going to be putting it in all of our high schools. And that really is a panic card that every classroom teacher will have, and that classroom teacher will be able to either invoke a lockdown if there's a crisis situation or call for immediate support from the administrative team that are in the building. What's really cool about this technology is over time, it's going to be connected to the Internet of Things. So we'll be able to shut doors, we'll be able to lock locks in a building, we'll be able to call first responders. So this is an emergent technology. The other thing we're going to watch is how kids are using social media. We have some plans right now to begin viewing social media as it's in the ether and pulling down keywords.
Okay. Well, the student voice is, of course, an important part of this issue. The Insight production team spoke to a few students at East Mecklenburg High School, and here's what they had to say about all of the safety screening.
Subjecting all students to searches and metal detectors, I don't think is the right move.
I understand the reasoning behind it, making sure that all students are safe.
I don't think it's a good idea because I feel like with that comes bias a lot of times, because I feel like depending on race and age and even gender.
The safety of the students is the number one priority. And if they think that it'll stop what's been going on, then I'm all for it.
My only concern would be to make sure that the equipment is being used fairly at all schools, that not one group is being targeted.
Maybe if we set up more counseling programs or more programs that check in with specific students that are known to have problems or bring weapons to school, I think that would be a great step forward.
We just have to try things. It's just like we haven't really exhausted all of our options yet. So I feel like this is kind of an extreme.
Well, you had an opportunity to listen to some of those responses. What is your message to these students?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want to say to the students that, this is not a day that we ever wanted to be in, where we're, really being kind of invasive in terms of their book bags and searching their person. I hope that kids understand we're doing this out of an abundance of caution, not because we think badly of them. But I also want to say to these young people, we're not just going to pick kids out of the alley because of the way they're dressed. We're not going to pick kids because of the color of their skin or what the bus that they got off of. We're going to do every kid all at once across a system because we think that it's the best way to keep guns out of the school and keep them safe.
When will all this happen, and more importantly, I guess, what about the cost for all of this? Because this is a lot of changes.
Yeah. The county gave us about $4.5 million for this year. We have another $4.5 million that we're yet to spend, so we'll be doing some other things with that. But right now, we're looking at end of January. We'll begin some of these more invasive things where we're doing the searches, but we've already begun many of the other changes that people will see.
Okay, we'll look forward to those. Another different safety concern, of course, for CMS has been the drinking water at our schools. The district has recently completed that second round of testing for lead levels. What have you found?
Well, what we found is that we did have some trace level of lead, particularly in a few of the drinking fountains or in sinks. Not generally in places where students could get at them, but just the same, out of the abundance of caution, and even where they were kids where we took them out of service, and we're looking more carefully across the system. But I think we've completed our first round right now. I think what we want to do is kind of step back and then really take a look at some of the other environmental challenges that we have in the interim.
Okay. How confident are you about the drinking water that's in our schools right now?
Well, you know, I obviously I'm not a young person with some of the brain development issues that kids have, but I don't think twice about bending over and having a drink of water in our schools. I never have, and that hasn't changed.
Will all the schools be tested at some particular time, now or later?
You know, I think that they will be. You know, we've completed a first round. We're going to look at a second round. We're also looking through this budget process of adding some additional personnel that will really help us with kind of an ongoing review of some of the environmental challenges. You know, it's not just lead in drinking water. I think we've got to take a look at some of the other kind of materials that are, you know, potentially hazardous to young people. Indoor air quality is something that's really important to us. I think we want to take a look at, you know, our lighting systems. We want to take a look at mold and mildew that builds up, particularly in some of our portable units.
Okay, so keeping our kids safe with the drinking water, of course, is at the top of the list as well.
Absolutely.
The government shutdown. Has the partial shutdown of the government had any effect on CMS so far, and do you see any in the future?
Not directly, but you know, we are beginning to worry about some of our kids whose parents work for different federal agencies because they're now going to be entering a period where they may or may not be getting a paycheck. We've got to be thoughtful about that. Most of our federal funds will continue to flow because they're, I guess, not segregated by this action.
Okay. You were involved in a partial shutdown recently. Our last batch of winter weather saw some schools closed down with other parts remaining open. How did that work out for you this particular time? This is like the first time we've done that where parts of the school system was shut down and parts remained open. How did that work out for us?
You know, that's really probably in the eyes and ears of a lot of parents in this community, but I think generally it went well, and I think it was a smart and responsible thing to do. I think you'll see more of that in the future where we're going to close down parts of the system. This is a big county, over 400 square miles. Just the way we're located within this county, I think it demands that we're a little smarter and a little more thoughtful. But you know, every time you do something like this, you encounter new challenges. We had a lot of our teachers who live in North County where they really had bad snow, and they work in South County. They couldn't get there. Or we had teachers in South County who, you know, were in school, but it just was a challenge. But we're gonna get there because at the end of the day, there are 150,000 kids that depend on us.
Is that something that you may look at for a next round of closing if and when we do have that?
I think you'll see kind of it's the new normal for us is that we'll close some schools and not all schools unless we have a hugely severe weather challenge.
Okay, all right. Well, when we come back, discover the many new ways CMS students can take the pathway to a promising career right here in CMS. Coming up after this short break. Career and Technical Education, or CTE, has opened the door for many CMS students to develop workplace skills and even earn certifications in all kinds of fields. So how can your student be part of this exciting opportunity? To provide us some insight, we welcome student Susan Gann. the CMS Director of Career and Technical Education. Susan, so glad to have you here with us today. And I know that there are a lot of exciting things going on in the CTE department. Tell us about these new opportunities for our students.
So we're really excited to have 19 career pathways that are offered at the high school level. However, we also have exploratory courses at the middle school level. We touch about 50,000 students, so it's pretty sure that your student has at some point in time taken a CTE course. What we're trying to do is now help students understand what is their passion and how can we help them study something deeply so that when they graduate from high school, they know exactly what their path should be once they have graduated, whether that is a certification going right into work, or it's going to a two-year college for an associate's, or it's going to a four-year degree. So it used to be that CTE was just for students that were going directly to work. And we're now in just a different age where every student really can benefit from being enrolled in a CTE course.
Most definitely. What are some of those pathways? You say you have 19 pathways. I know that's a lot of them, but what are some of the hot pathways that students are really interested in and trying to register for?
So we want to really think about the job demand in the Charlotte area. So advanced manufacturing is a very lucrative field, and there are lots of opportunities here in Charlotte, in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area for that. Another one is software development is another hot pathway that also students can get AP credit when they take that pathway and walk out with certifications. And then we have some of the more traditional things like culinary and automotive, cosmetology, pretty much any interest that a student has. We also have health pathways. I don't want to forget talking about our health pathways. So we have high demand pathways, and then we also have demand pathways that are simply about replacement workforce or growth workforce.
What type of student might be interested in these type of courses that you're finding?
Honestly, when I talk to students, I've not run into any students who have said, gosh, I really don't want to take a course of something that's about what I'm going to do for a living. So I think CTE courses are for everyone, even for four-year college students. I hear a lot of stories from parents whose students have gone to college without really an understanding of what they were getting a degree for, and then they come out and they're actually not qualified to apply for any jobs, versus a student who explores that and then lays the foundation and actually can make better gains with less college debt by moving right into that career path or moving into that certification program after high school. So I don't really think there's a student that it is not for. I think every student needs to have that touch point in their high school.
And of course, getting a job after high school and after college is what all parents certainly want. How can parents and students find out more information about this? I know there's a new website out. Give us some information about that new website and what we can find there.
Well, I'm beaming because we're so excited about the launch of discovercte.com. And this is a perfect time for our families to begin exploring what is on our website. So we have student videos that share about what the courses are like, what's the experience of going through a 4 or 5 course pathway in high school, and what are the certifications, industry certifications that you can earn while you're in those courses. And so parents and students can sit together and really navigate from video to video and from looking at each of the different sites. I highly recommend maybe taking a couple of nights and looking at every video. They're very short. They're only probably about less than 2 minutes, so it doesn't take a lot of time, but there's a lot of meat in there to really get some understanding. There's also links to the Junior Achievement, who we partner with, their career assessment, which is, I think, one of the best career assessments that I've seen. So I encourage parents and students, I actually have taken it, and I encourage everyone to go online and take that so that they have a better understanding of just what are some of the opportunities that might match with their personal skill set and their personality.
Okay, definitely setting goals, and I know that registration will happen soon for high school students, so this would be a time for them to explore and then decide what they want to put on their registration card with CTE classes definitely checked off on those. All right. Yep. Well, Susan, we thank you so much for being with us. You've given us a lot of insight that our parents and our students can use.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
There is more insight from the superintendent coming up right after this break. Welcome back to Insight. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are at the core of a quality education. But to educate the whole child, you cannot leave out a healthy dose of the arts. And who knows this better than Michael Chilcutt, Assistant Superintendent for the Fine Arts.
You look at the arts and what the arts have to offer. Yeah, demonstrating independence. Art's about creativity. I mean, a lot of people say that, but what is creativity? You're making something brand new that never existed out of things that were around us, or ideas that were around us. That is the essence of independence. You're making something brand new.
And of course, you would agree with that, Superintendent, that the arts is important.
Absolutely. I thought this was an important position to establish. Mike actually worked with me in Washington County. He had done great things for his young people. He did great things for the county, and I thought we could bring that here to CMS.
Okay, so we look forward to all of the arts in CMS.
I think you're going to like what he does.
Well, New Year's resolutions sometimes mean watching what you eat, and the CMS NutriSlice app allows parents and students and Dr. Wilcox, of course, to do just that. Tell us about this new app.
Well, what the app does is really lets people know what's going to be served at school. It gives them vital calorie information. So a parent who wants to help manage their child's intake, caloric intake, can really kind of take a look at that and say, here's what I think I want you to have today. And really start to have conversations around healthy choices that young people should have.
Okay, so they can discuss the lunch menu the night before and then come in, pick up those healthy choices.
Absolutely. And I think what we're finding across the district is kids are actually using it even without their parents to kind of make their plan for the day.
Okay, sounds good. The CMS Board of Education started the new year with a new contract extension for the superintendent. Congratulations, Dr. Wilcox, on that. Tell us what this means for the road ahead and some of your goals for Team CMS.
Well, I think the first thing that I'd like to say is, a thank you to the community who's allowed me to be successful in my first year. But, really what this says, I think, is that the board and the superintendent are on the same page, that we're working hard to establish a more equitable system of education for our kids and families. It really says, I think, to the larger community that we're headed directionally right, and we're going to spend more time on the path to doing great things for all of our kids. When you ask me what I want to look at, obviously I want to look at equity. I want to look at literacy, particularly having our kids read well by the time they're in third grade so that they can continue to read to learn as they get to middle school and high school. So those are important things. Several other things that we hope to do. We've already talked a little bit more about establishing a stronger, deeper arts program, but we also want to make sure that all of our kids who want to have access to African American studies and Latinx studies. So at our high schools next year, everyone is going to be able to have access to those kinds of courses so that they can see themselves in the curriculum. And I think when you see yourself in the curriculum, when you see the value that you and your people add, you're going to be more engaged. Okay,
we look forward to it.
Thank you.
We look forward to it. Well, thank you so much for watching. We hope that you've learned something that will help you become an informed parent, an energized employee, or an engaged community member. Your support is important to the success of CMS. We'll see you next time for more insight.